All right, let me bring my next guest on because this conversation about FISA warrants is important. And joining us now, he is one of the young voices and works as the Senior Tech and Innovation Policy Analyst at Americans for Prosperity, where he writes about consumer data privacy, cybersecurity, and technology. James Czerniawski, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I spoke earlier to Congressman Thomas Massie about what happened yesterday in Congress, but I kind of want to do a deeper dive with you about the FISA situation as it is. As a privacy expert, what are your thoughts overall on this program?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that when we're talking about the Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, it's important to understand that it is a tool that is meant to go and help the United States go and collect information on non-U.S. persons. And the issue that ultimately has arisen over the 15 years since that was adopted was that it was collecting a lot of information that the government was using on U.S. persons. That's a little problematic in our view. And we think that, at the end of the day, while we can recognize the value that can come out of, having such a tool for surveilling our, adversaries that are out there in the world, we can't just have a blank check to go and accomplish that goal. We have to respect the Constitution. And right now, this program is allowing for flagrant violations of Americans' Fourth Amendment rights. And we think that there needs to be a lot of serious reforms to this program if it's going to be allowed to continue in its current existence right now. And that's why we kind of see everything kind of break down on the Hill the way it did yesterday, actually. Just yesterday, my God, time's just been going by so fast.
Yeah.
But it's really just been a fascinating conversation because you have actually very strong conservatives like Representative Massie coupled with very strong progressives like Representative Jayapal. It's really kind of like blended across multiple, people across the political ideological spectrum, right? So it's been a very interesting conversation to watch unfold. I
asked the congressman, here's my issue from the outside looking in, and I'm not going to pretend to be a Section 702 expert. I have a rudimentary knowledge at best, but the thing that gets me is that there has been no significant punishment for anybody who's violated the FISA standards. There's been nobody's gone to jail for lying on a FISA warrant. And he said that there have been 200,000 instances of FISA being used to spy improperly. 200,000. So until there's some kind of teeth in this, rulemaking and perhaps an external outside the Department of Justice organization that is enforced with or charged with enforcing these rules, because I don't trust the Department of Justice to police their own people. We've seen that already. We've already been down that road unsuccessfully. But those things will never really happen because the people in charge are the people that want to be able to have carte blanche on this issue, don't you think?
Oh, no, absolutely. I think that's completely fair, and it certainly is one of the points that we raised when we were talking about why we wanted to go and see the program reauthorized with reforms. Those kinds of reforms that we were advocating for included requiring, the government to get a warrant if it wanted to go and search Americans' communications. We wanted to go and improve the amicus process for when people are going to the FISA court to spy on Americans because, again, we think that we need to... You're not going to know, as Senator Mike Lee kind of astutely noted, if the government's spying on you. So you need a better advocate on your behalf. And there are FISA lawyers that can do this, but, it's very hard to go navigate that process. And there are a lot of different things that are going on there. But I think that, when you're in the political sausage-making business, as these members of Congress are, it's about figuring out what's the best deal that you can get that can get some key reforms that you want across the finish line and understand that you're not going to get everything that you want. So I think that you want to go and see an outcome occur where we can get some of these key reforms done and recognize that we'll have to come back to the table and get some other kinds of reforms down the line because the alternative is that they're just going to go and, if this were to lapse, they would likely go and take these kinds of surveillance authorities and just repurpose them underneath the existing spy programs that happen underneath Executive Order 12333. And therein lies the problem, right, is that we basically have created a culture of surveillance in the United States where if it's not happening here, it can happen here. And Congress at least has oversight if it's happening underneath Section 702. So I'd rather have the oversight and accountability in Congress than go and, just trust us from the Biden administration that, they're going to go and, pinky promise not to go and violate your rights. I think that's why we care so deeply.
I find it outrageous that Congress is so untrusting of this piece of legislation that they carved out themselves. There's a carve out in this legislation that basically says if you're going to spy on a member of Congress, you have to let them know. And just for Congress, I mean, that in and of itself says to me, this is a garbage plan and needs to be reassessed. Because if they can exempt themselves, then by God, by golly, they better exempt me too.
Right. I think that that's a completely fair point, and it was something that I highlighted when covering it on Twitter the other day, because I think it's a little ludicrous that you can have a program exist where it's rules for me but not for thee, right? Like, why does Congress don't have special protections for themselves that can't be afforded to everyday Americans, especially when you're talking about at the scale that these kinds of abuses happen, right? If it was over 200,000 times that the FBI went and illegally searched Americans' communications, in our view, I think that we need to go and have some better reforms in place. And that's what, myself and others have been working on for basically the last 15 months. This was supposed to be taken care of by the end of last year, but naturally, leadership and certainly the Biden administration pushed for a short-term reauthorization to get included in the National Defense Authorization Act. So it really created a fantastic set of circumstances where, it wasn't taken care of then, and we're still fighting over it now. And hopefully we can get some of these key reforms here done as we're in this home stretch.
Well, if the Republicans who voted against the procedural vote yesterday do not come on board, there's going to be no chance to amend it.
Yes. Well, even right now, underneath the rules, there was only going to be a limited number of amendments that would have been considered anyway. This was a part of a broader deal that the Intelligence Committee and the Judiciary Committees had negotiated a while back. So there's going to be a set number of amendments that are going to get considered for this particular rule, should it go and pass whenever they bring it back up for a vote, right? So there's plenty of opportunities, I think, between now and then to go and rectify some of these issues, and we're hopeful that we can get the warrant requirement and also, more importantly, closing the data broker loophole, which allows law enforcement to circumvent your Fourth Amendment right by basically just buying the data on you from someone else.
And that's Thomas Massey was talking about, trying to get a warrant provision put in here so that if you were going to gather up data, you had to get a warrant on the American citizen, even if you accidentally scoop them up because they talk to a foreign person that you're looking into. And I think at a bare minimum, we need to have a vote on that. Even if it goes down, I want to know who's voting against it.
Yeah, and I think that part is something that Rep. Massey highlighted on Twitter, I believe, either yesterday or early today. And it's really important. I mean, look, one way or another, I think the American people deserve and expect a vote to know where their member of Congress stands on if they're okay with the government being able to spy on them. That's certainly something that we've been arguing for the last 15 months, is that at the end of the day, this shouldn't get slammed into some kind of must-pass bill. This shouldn't get put into an omnibus package filled with pork. This just needs to be a standalone vote where members of Congress can honestly go and tell their constituents, how they feel about their Fourth Amendment rights, and again, I think two things can be true at the same time. National security is important, and our civil liberties are important, and they're not mutually exclusive goals. We can and we should have, a program in place that's mutually reinforcing. And there have been numerous proposals from the Judiciary Committee members, as well as Senator Mike Lee and Ron Wyden and Senator Dick Durbin. They have gone into great lengths to go and have these kinds of reforms in place. And it's really unfortunate that the Intelligence Committee and the intelligence community and its allies are, really digging their heels in here, not trying to go and give up an inch of ground in terms of, having a significant and meaningful reform to this very troubled program.
It does not make me trust them anymore, I'll tell you that. James Czerniawski, I appreciate your time today and your expertise on this, and I'm going to keep watching this because this just, for me, is just another example of the fact that our government is far too large and far too powerful, and we don't have enough people fighting to rein that in. That's my view. James, I appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you.